Hello, hello. My hair color is becoming bizarre. It is bizarre. It is bizarre. It's almost like this thing green there. It's like a yellow green with blue gray underneath. That's what it is. This is amazing. Yes. I keep putting some hydrogen peroxide spray or water on. But my dad said, "That looks cute, your hair." What? No, it does not. It looks really, 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 really bad. But that's part of my life, I guess. I'm trying the best I can. I really do. I had a hood on last night after I took a shower. So that flattened my hair a little bit. Usually it stands up over the ears like earmuffs, sort of. I remember way back at the university, I had this girlfriend. She was very critical of everything, and I understand. I am too. And I liked her so much, I wanted to take photos with her to remember her. And we took photos in front of the door, and she said, "University of Landau." And we both had to laugh a whole lot because it's like I'm taking this photo in front of this pitiful institution that had like nothing to offer. They didn't even have a therapist there for the students. Not even that. We had to do all of this on our own. So I ended up wanting to commit suicide. I decided, okay, I'm going to commit suicide because I didn't have a therapist there at the university. And every man there rejected me. I was like 31 or something. And I asked this 21-year-old guy, I asked him, "You want to go hiking with me? It's a beautiful Rhine area with wine growers." I said, and like rolling hills. I said, "Come, let's go hiking. It's fun." And he said, "Hiking is something for 30-year-olds." And I was already over 30. And that was so incredibly depressing. But it was more than depressing. I thought that was so retarded to say something like this. And it just showed me, you are alone in this world. Yeah. Yeah. And then when I find someone who is really interesting to talk to, like Bunny, Graveyard Girl, someone interesting to talk to, non-sexually, okay? Too bad one has to always say this. I just wanted friends at the university, and this one guy had been looking at me, and I thought maybe he'll be up for going for hikes, because I needed to go hiking with people. So I ended up finding a girl who went hiking with me, so in the very end. And I should have spent more time with her. I really should have spent more time with her, and she was just as depressed as I was. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, I tell you that. I think she liked me also physically, but I didn't. I'm not into it. But I should have, she was already borderline, I think a little bit over borderline. And I didn't know how to handle this, but she wanted to go into the bathtub with me, and please turn it off if you can't handle it. I understand. And I was so alone, you know. I should have let her go in the bathtub with me, but I have OCD and all of this, and I can't have someone in the bathtub with me. And then, you know, later on, I look back on these things, on these pivotal moments, and then I regret it horribly, you know. I should have just gone into a relationship with her. I should have done whatever she wanted, because I was so alone. I had this Nigerian guy, and when he came to my house, I don't mean to put anyone down, you know, and I don't want this to be misunderstood again, but I think people should really know. I had sex with him, and it just wasn't feeling right. He was just, there was such coldness, and emotionally, you know, such coldness. I'm better off with my dildo, you know, than having someone who's emotionally cold. And then he had the nerve to say to me on the last date that we had, he had the nerve to say to me with this Nigerian accent that I'm sorry, but I hate that accent. I hate that accent because of just my brain linked up some really terrible things with it. I don't know if I can upload this. This is totally politically incorrect. But you know, shall we deny our feelings because they're politically incorrect? Just for that reason, I don't want to deny it. If a woman has been raped over and over and over by a very distinct person from a very distinct look and distinct area with a distinct accent, do you hold it against her if she has been raped not just by this one guy but by many of that same type? Do you hold it against her that her brain links up something negative with that accent? It's just a question I want to put out there for people. So I can't worry about people hating me, you know. I really can't. I can't. You know, bring it on. I mean, maybe we can have a meaningful discussion about it. If you want to put everything on the race card, everything, then you can wash your ego, and you have to never ever take any responsibility for any shit you do, you know. You can put everything on the race card, you know. Wow. I hate people like this. Sorry. I hate you guys. I hate you for that. I hate you for this race card bullshit. I'm certain I'm absolutely 100% sure that there are some kind-hearted people too in Nigeria. Okay. But what I've seen on the internet and from the people I talk to on Facebook, all these scam artists that are raising money for their church in Nigeria, and for what he said to me on that date, He said to me, women should be in pain when they have sex. And that's why the Nigerian men, they dictate to their women. They have this is a dictation. It's some kind of religious dictation. They dictate that they have the girl's clitoris circumcised, actually sewn together, so that they have pain during intercourse. I'm making a video. People need to know this. Making a video. Yeah. I already told you that I'm making a video. So.
Are you downstairs or upstairs?
I'm right here in the upstairs room.
Okay.
I can have a therapist and pay $1,000, and have the therapist not understand the shit I say, or I can use my tablet for free, you know. So I use the tablet for free. I'm not in the best of moods today, but it helps a lot to talk about this, and I think people should know. They should know. You know, if you have linked up something negative with a specific accent or a specific looks of a person, the other side of the valley, they do it all the time. Okay. But we're not allowed to do it. No, we're not allowed to do this. We need to circumcise our emotions. We cut our emotions off. We cannot feel it. We cannot talk about it. Because politically incorrect, we could be labeled racist. So all of this shit is not going anywhere, and you know it. This shit isn't going anywhere, okay? What they do in Nigeria to animals and people is beyond monstrous, okay? It's atrocious. It's beyond Holocaust, actually, what they do there to animals and people. I don't even want to talk about it, about what they do. Read it up for yourselves, you know. Read what they do to cows. They have these cow tearing ceremonies where they tear apart a bull. I don't want to get into the details. Horrible things happen all the way around the equator. I'm not just blaming it on this or this or this country. But that doesn't make it better. That doesn't let them get off the hook just because it's bad in other places too. Okay? So these things need to be talked about. These things, people need to know about this, you know, particularly before they go over to Nigeria. And I had a Japanese girlfriend in Santa Monica College, and we took the African anthropology class. That's where I learned a lot of these things, what they do to people there in the name of religion. And she, even though we had, after that class, we learned all these horrible things about Africa, she still wanted to take a study trip to Africa and learn all about it from the people there directly. And I said, be careful, man, this is getting dangerous. It's really getting dangerous. And so there was this older guy from Nigeria who came to her other class that she was in, and he waited there for anyone who was interested in going to Nigeria. And for some reason he only picked up these smaller, shorter kind of girls, the petite kind of girls, young and petite, and short and petite. And so she got all excited. I'm going to Africa. This guy is sponsoring it. The guy from Nigeria, and like all of my red flags came on. So I just had this instinct to go with her when she was meeting him and another guy. She was meeting them in a restaurant. And I think I've never talked about this before. Maybe I have. It was Thanksgiving, and he invited her and me to that restaurant. I'm glad that I was allowed to come along, because if I had not, it would have been, I don't even want to think about it. So me being big and tall, that is a huge help. Yeah, it's been a lifesaver for me to be 5'9" and weigh 220 pounds. It's a real lifesaver. And having big arms also, and all of this. And so, and my Japanese girlfriend, like a foot shorter than me, and with little arms and narrow shoulders, and could not defend herself ever. So, and very, very naive. The people in Japan, they seem to be extremely naive, because they grow up in this bubble, in this paradise bubble where everyone is nice and decent. There's no crime, okay, or almost no crime. Certainly no violence on the street. So they're kind of naive when they come into the rest of the world. And I saw all of this and I felt really bad. It just gave me the creeps. And so we were sitting there on that dinner table, and the guy from Nigeria, he said how great this is, the student sponsorship for students, to all female petite girls, to go over to Nigeria. And I listened, and I just listened the whole time. I said very little. It's good to listen and really pay attention. And then he started to, I guess he must have felt a little uncomfortable about the way my eyes are kind of piercing, And even though I didn't have too negative of thoughts, I was just felt like instinctively more than consciously that I needed to be there for Yasuko. And so the guy started to say, and I have no agenda. I have no agenda. With that Nigerian accent, I have no agenda. And I have no agenda. I have no agenda. And so finally I was like, oh my gosh, he has an agenda. Okay. So like all the red lamps came on. Alarm. Oh my gosh, my whole body was under alarm. I saw already, I had this horror that Yasuko is gonna go into a human trafficking, sex trafficking bordel or something, where she's gonna be prostituted as a slave, which happens in the world, all over the world, by the way, but seems to be really, really horrific in Nigeria. They particularly want people from out of the country, because they're really interested in those. And so I said, I need to go to the restroom, and I asked Yasuko to come with me. And she must have felt something too, I don't know, something. She knew that from my behavior something was not quite right. And so we met at the women's restroom, and my whole body was shaking. And I hugged her and I cried and I said, Jasko, he's going to put you into a sex prostitution ring. We gotta go right now. We need to go right now. We need to get away. We need to get completely away from this guy, never meet him again. And she started to shake too. And she believed it. And, well, that's where psychic abilities come in very handy. And so we left, and they had already, they got up too, because they suspected that we were going to run off. And the two men from Nigeria, and so they followed us outside to the parking lot, and we kind of talked to them for a couple of minutes, and they said, so we need you to come with us now. And that's when we both just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. We ran for like an hour through Santa Monica. We ran and ran and ran and ran past houses, apartment buildings. We ran and ran and ran. And they couldn't get into the car as fast to follow us, so they lost us. And we stopped running. I walked with her. We were crying and talking, and I brought her home to her apartment. We sat there for a moment. I was so scared, and I felt so bad about this. And then I finally left and went to my own apartment. I think this is important to talk about this. Yeah, maybe this thing can help someone else. No, I'm not racist. Okay? I am not racist. I love all living beings equally much. Okay? But I am very psychic. Okay? I'm highly intuitive and highly sensitive. And I put A and B together. And I don't trust anyone. Makes me very alone. Sometimes you might ask, which is better? Put yourself out there into danger, or be completely alone in your dungeon? Which one is better? It's both bad, but you can't ignore your body's survival instinct, you know. That's much louder than anything else. I saved a person's life. And my husband saved a Japanese girl too once, which is a strange coincidence. Those things both happened before we met each other. Happened at around approximately the same time, the same year, I think. He saw a big black man raping a Japanese girl at the beach out there in Marina del Rey. Or Playa del Rey, somewhere there. And my husband is not a big guy. He's shorter than I am. And he went over there risking his life. Didn't even have his dogs with him. He went over there and he confronted the guy and he shouted at him. Paul used to be a patrol officer for Bel Air Patrol. And so he just followed his heart, he just, instead of being afraid, he knew this girl's life was at stake. So he went over, he hollered at them, no matter what was gonna happen next. And the guy hollered back real angrily, but the guy ran away. Whew, man, it could have ended very badly. And he took this girl, she was in a shock. She was psychologically so shaken up by this that, can you imagine, for a Japanese girl growing up in this bubble? She couldn't even talk. She could barely talk, and when she was talking, it sounded like she could not get the words out correctly. It was like, oh, like this. Sort of like drunk, but not drunk, but it's like, it impairs the speech, when someone is in shock. So he brought her to his car and he said, I'm gonna take you home now. And so she was barely able to convey to him where she lives. And he brought her to the door and he made sure that she would get into the house before he leaves. And the father opened the door and he briefly explained to the father what happened, and the father did not thank him for this. The father acted angry and took the daughter into the house and closed the door in front of Paul's nose and did not even say thank you. Thank you for rescuing my daughter's life. No, he didn't. So that's very awful. That's very cold. I think this is important to talk about this because people need to know. It can save your life. Very important. I have been date raped by black men. Talked about this before. And I have been physically battered, beaten and kicked by an Iranian man. Not by a Swedish man, okay. Sweden was from the original Swedish native population, okay. Because these people do not rape anyone, and Japanese men don't rape anyone either, okay. This is just a statistical fact. So, but I'm gonna get hate for this. You're not allowed to say statistical facts. But this information can save people's lives, if they become a little bit less naive. Very important. I think if someone would try to assault my family or me, I think I would become a Medusa for sure. I would really go for it. Someone threatened us physically or started to batter us or started to hurt us, I would really go for it. I would really finish that person off. I mean, I will have supernatural power come out of me. That's for sure. I can guarantee you that. There's some wild thing inside of me That saved my life also. That anger saved my life. I don't put up with bullshit. Sorry. I'm not the kind of person who lets peer pressure and intimidation silence me. I'll never be invited to your parties, okay? But thank you, I don't need to. But I send every living being love anyway. Infinite love for all living beings equally much. We're all in pain, okay? Let's celebrate the truth. I think that would be awesome, wouldn't it? The truth. Not fake truth, not fake news. Not fake, all of the fake. Not the political correctness, fakeness, but the truth. And don't censor anyone anymore. Don't censor scientists who have real statistical facts. Don't censor those. Don't threaten anyone and don't silence anyone. The only path is the path within oneself, and that is, if I have done bullshit, I have to own up to it. Okay. For those men who rape women, own up to it. Okay. The path is within yourself. You did the raping, not the person, not the people, not the scientists who point out the statistical, demographic curves and graphs in the coordinate system. They are not the ones raping anyone. They're just showing a reflection on how it is, on the demographic and their behavior. Okay, they're not the ones that are hurting anyone. Matter of fact is they are giving a picture, they're giving reality to the world. They are making people less naive, but it's being censored. Why? Because the egos cannot stand it when someone brings out statistical facts. Because they can't stand it. The egos cannot take it. But it would be much better for everyone, including yourselves, if you said, okay, this is a statistical fact. I'm sorry that it is like that, okay? If you are not a rapist, or if you are a woman belonging to that demographic, you should say, this is sad. I feel sad for my own people that they are like this. They are tormented on the inside. Something is bad wrong with all that violence. And stop identifying yourself just because that happens to be the demographic that you belong to. I'm from Germany. I don't identify myself being a German. I'm from Earth. That's ridiculous to identify yourself with your nation or your demographic. And for those men who have raped women, instead of taking offense to someone's scientific study, go within yourself and say, this is terrible. This is awful what you have done. It's monstrous. Say, I'm sorry. When you go to bed at night, instead of drinking alcohol, say, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I caused suffering. Say that to those victims that you have raped or murdered. Animals and people. Animals and humans. Say sorry. Say that you are infinitely sorry. That is the first step. And that is the step within yourself. So, and this subject brings me now to that what I've been wanting to talk about today, which all ties into the same thing. And that is when I mentioned it in the last video at the end, mentioned the doll of Bunny. She had this stuffed doll that she felt extremely drawn to. That doll was in an antique store, probably 200 years or 300 years old. Probably made by a rural person, someone who didn't have many resources or money, or wasn't living in. That's the impression I'm getting. Someone who just made these things with West fabrics and stuff like this, and maybe even with some hides and whatever they had there. So and so the doll has gone through several hands, and at some point the doll has witnessed a very horrific crime of a father raping the girl over and over and over again. And then when she was around 8 years old, she said, I'm going to tell other people what you have done to me. And that's when he killed her. And she had the doll in her arms to give her comfort while he killed her. So her soul never left that doll. Okay, that's what happened. Yeah, you probably think this is totally nuts or something, but this is what I'm seeing. I have a very strong intuition about this, very strong. And the betrayal and hurt is so extreme with that. That little girl never left that door until just recently. And that sounds grandiose again, but I sensed it and felt it so strongly, so strongly. There was this sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh. Like, sometimes when you talk to someone like this, when you talk to someone in your room, and without, the person doesn't have to be there. You talk to someone, you send someone infinite love. You have no idea what that does. I've seen it many times, also with people. Sometimes I see just the slightest bit of compassion and understanding for someone who is troubled and not nice. Just the slightest bit of understanding can move mountains. It's amazing. I'm shocked about this myself because I've seen this. I've seen this locally when I go shopping. There are some people who are very deeply unhappy and miserable and angry. and she was rude to me and everything, let me wait, all of this. And then I felt irritated by this, and I felt like badly treated. But then I thought, this woman is deeply suffering. And just the thought of, I understand this deep suffering that was going through my head while I was at the cash register. And suddenly, it was like there was an energetic shift in the air around the entire cash register. Just for me having this thought of, I understand what she's going through hell. And suddenly there was this, as if there was energy that has lifted. And suddenly she felt like there was like a sigh of relief going through her. And she was very, very nice to me in that moment. And from then on, it was absolutely amazing. Just a little bit of understanding how far that goes. And so I did that for the doll. You know. I saw that doll. When she talked about the doll and showed the photos, also in Shane's video, they showed photos of the doll. And then she talked about this in her doll room. She talked about the doll and the story. I had to skip some things because it made me scared. I'm very ultra mega sensitive with that kind of stuff. I don't like that. I don't like to be scared with things. I can't handle it at all. I talk to them, you know, I tell them, please don't show yourself to me in any fierce physical kind of way. You know, don't do it. Because I can't stand, I will get a heart attack for sure. And I want to be here for my Papa Dog, you know. So as long as Papa Dog's here, I want to be here for him. So when she was talking about that story, about that doll, and she said that when she brought the doll home, the doll sat there, and there was a shadow cast by the doll, and from the light, of course, but the shadow of the doll, there was an enormous amount of energy in it. And she interpreted that energy as, I'm not going to talk about Bunny herself, so I'm just going to talk about what I see in this video. That video is in the open, so I can talk about it. I cannot, those people, they don't see me. My comments fall under the radar. There are billions of comments of people. There's no way she's gonna see my comment where I say, oh, can I talk about it? And maybe can I, you know, talk also about you, and I don't want to talk about you personally if you don't give me permission. So, but she doesn't see the comments, so I will not talk about her, but I will talk about her doll, because that story is out in the open. I see it all of it. So, and I can strongly relate to a lot. I relate to Bunny, and I relate to the doll. The doll's former soul. You know, the doll doesn't have the soul now. Right now, the soul left. The doll is now in another antique store somewhere in Texas, and she's happy there. She feels good. That's good. And that's also why, you know, because she felt good there, and felt like she was left, and she was in peace. She had enough peace to, the thing all came together, you know, for me to then see the video and then talk to the doll and say, It's all good. It's all good now. You can go within yourself. Okay, that's the only path we can take. Whoever we are, whether they are the rapists, the bull torturers in Nigeria, or the albatross torturers in South America, or any torturer of any being. The only path is the path within yourselves. And the little girl didn't torture or hurt anyone. She was just living with this pent up energy of extreme disappointment and an incredible hatred. So, and that's what was shown in that shadow, of course. Extreme hatred. That extreme hatred can mobilize a dog, believe it or not. But yeah. And that's why, I'm saying, instead of running away screaming out of your houses, I mean, I'm not addressing this to Bunny or anyone in particular, just addressing it to myself. I have done this. I'm guilty of this. I have run out of my house screaming once because I heard the recliner chair clicking in, the foot pad part.